Welcome back to another segment of Ask Judy in this Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. A question from Holly. Everyone here frequently comments how youthful looking you are. For sure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Our culture is obsessed. The Waltons allowed Grandma and Grandpa to be and look like people who have lived long enough to be the grand generation. Not so much these days. What are your thoughts about plastic surgery? Kind of scares me. I haven't had any plastic surgery. My face, no. So I'm going to do my best to age gracefully. So that's my stand right at this minute. Maybe check with me in 10, 20, 30 years. But hey, you hit a certain age where, it's just, you're happy to be healthy. So I think that's the most important thing. Another question. Would you ever share a peek into your beauty and skincare routine for us ladies? I really don't do a lot. I don't sleep with my makeup on. But I just, I use makeup remover and a lot of times just soap and water. I do use moisturizer at night and a sunscreen during the day. But that's kind of it. I'm pretty low maintenance that way. I don't know why, I just am, because it's like a lot of work to not be. Okay, you're obviously, do you follow any particular exercise regimes? You're obviously athletic. I don't follow a specific exercise regime. I do try to stretch regularly. I'm bad about that. I don't do as much as I should. But sports have always been sort of my exercise. I still ride and jump horses, so I usually ride 4 or 5 times a week. And then I try to get out, and I used to call it running. Now I happily call it jogging because I'm so slow. But I try and get out at least once a week, sometimes a couple times a week, and it's usually 3 to 4 miles. I hate doing it, but I feel like it's good for my cardio, and I find it easier to maintain than to stop for long periods and then try and start again. So just trying to stay active and healthy. I feel better. A lot of those aches and pains seem to be less if I'm moving a lot. I'm big on maintenance, so I see a chiropractor and get a massage. So I do those as often as I can, just for maintenance and preventative things. So that's kind of my routine. And then, do I have a favorite fashion designer? No, not really. I've never been big on labels. I like clothes that work for me. So I think people tend to find certain stores where, or this brand or something, fits me, fits my body type. So I think it's been more about that, but I wouldn't even say that there's a particular store. I find things I like in a lot of different places. So no specific fashion designer. Don't have a favorite graphic artist, and really don't have a favorite composer. So that's it. And then you had some music questions, yes, you mentioned the theme song that Jerry Goldsmith wrote, which is just brilliant, and then we had wonderful Alexander Courage, who did the music for a lot of seasons of the Waltons, wrote some beautiful music. I can't answer a lot of the questions that people ask me about the music because it didn't happen on set, and I wasn't around when compositions were done. So I don't really know why the music changed. Some people have said the music seemed different in later seasons. I don't know why. They probably changed composers. Don't know why. I'm going to try and see if I can get maybe John Dayton to come on again. He might know more about behind the scenes with the music, or maybe one of the other production people that worked more in post-production. If I can, I will. So I haven't forgotten that a lot of you have had those music questions, but I haven't taken it up because I can't answer them. Question here from Kim Glass. All right. What were your work hours, and did the studio pick you up and take you home every night, or was that left up to your parents to get you there? We did not get picked up by the studio. Sometimes, like early on, Richard, because he didn't drive, somebody would go and pick him up and take him home. So that would happen sometimes, but for us children, because we had to have a parent or guardian there anyway, they would just drive us. And then when we were old enough to have cars and drive, we drove ourselves. So in terms of hours, when we were under 18, they could only have us there for 8 hours. And then there was an hour for lunch. So we could be there 9 hours altogether. Once you turned 18, then that wasn't restricted in that way. The restriction was that actors are supposed to have 12 hours between what we call a 12-hour turnaround. So if you finished working at 8 o'clock in the evening, they couldn't call you in before 8 o'clock the next morning. Sometimes on a Friday night, because we didn't shoot on Saturday, I had some days where I worked like 16 or more hours because they didn't have to worry. They had plenty of turnaround time. So those were kind of the way it ran in terms of what time we arrived. If we were working on the soundstage, we might have an 8 o'clock shooting call, maybe 8:30, usually 8 o'clock, which meant that for the actors, if you were in the first scene, hair and makeup might be an hour before, maybe 45 minutes before. For the boys, not so much. For the girls, more, because the hair took more, the makeup took more. And if we were outside and it was, in the fall or the winter and we didn't have a lot of sun, our shoot call would be as soon after the sun was up and able to be used as possible. So a lot of times we might have, 7 a.m., 7:15, maybe 7:30 shooting calls. And then we'd lose the light. So then we'd try and do scenes where it could be darker. So we did a lot of like 8 to 6 kind of work, but I had a lot of calls where I'd be like, why do I have to have the 6 a.m. or 6:15 hair and makeup call, especially when she turned 18, because the children, they try and give them short makeup and hair because they didn't want to eat into the time they could have them there, because that was part of the overall time that they could be there. So that's, I think that's kind of what you want to know. So hopefully that answered it. A question from James Jackson. Would you talk about your relationship with the girl who played Martha Rose Coverdale? Seems like you had a genuine connection with that actress, judging from the scenes you share, which left me wondering if you were friends offset. Cindyeilbacher and I knew each other before the Waltons because she was an actress who I saw at auditions all the time. And frequently she got roles that I went up for and wanted but didn't get. So as actors, sometimes you are more right for one role than for another. So I believe she might have even auditioned for the role of Mary Ellen. I don't totally recall, but seems likely that she did. So I'm very grateful that this was one of the roles that I got potentially instead of her. But Cindy, really talented actress. Sometimes I was a little jealous of her because she got parts that I wanted. But we did get along, but I wouldn't say we were ever close friends, and we never really got together away from the set. But it was fun, that sort of on-camera rivalry, and it didn't exist off camera. We didn't have any kind of rivalry off camera. So from that perspective, yes, we did get along well. You had another question. Do you know where the name John Boy came from? I know in Spencer's Mountain, the character's name was Clayboy. Was Earl's childhood nickname actually Earl Boy? Or was that just something Earl made up for the book or the show? I don't think he was called Earl Boy. So I think it was something that he created for the movie and the show, although I'd have to go back and look now, and if I have a chance to ask one of his family members, maybe I can get a more definite answer for you. So thanks for asking. That's what I have for you for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons, Ask Judy. If you're enjoying these, please do hit like and subscribe. I'll be back with more Behind the Scenes of the Waltons and more Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.